I'm Ariana Grande.
Hi, I'm Cynthia Erivo.
And you're listening to the Broadway Podcast Network.
Visit bpn.fm to discover more.
There's a cat over here. There's a cat over there. And the wrong one died. And the wrong one died.
Welcome to The Wrong Cat Died, the podcast breakdown the catastrophe. I'm your host, Mike Abrams, and today we have another amazing guest. He is currently performing as Munkustrap on the international tour, so I am very excited to have him. So welcome, Sam Brown, and thank you for joining me.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
I'm excited to chat with you. I know you started after I got to see the tour in Frankfurt, but I am familiar with the production, and I know you got a couple stints. So we'll talk about, 2024 and then coming back in 2025. But before we do that, I always like to start with your cat's history from the beginning. So what was your introduction to the show?
Well, I feel like so many other people, the VHS was certainly my first introduction to the show. Like so many people in our company, actually, quite often on stage or in rehearsals or anything like that, the blueprint we use is that incredible VHS and that incredible cast. That was my first introduction. I remember my mum introducing me to that because she was, she's a massive fan of theatre. And at the time, I kind of wasn't really aware, I was so young, what a musical even was. It just felt like a film that was kind of laid in a different format. And I was transfixed by it, really. And I always remember driving through the nearby forest and my mum always saying to me, "Oh, look out for Mr. Mistopheles," and all of this. Like I can remember it like it's yesterday, although it was so long ago. But that VHS certainly sticks in my memory as the first time witnessing the spectacle that is Cats, for sure.
Yeah. What age were you when you first saw that VHS?
Wow, I would have been very, very young. I would even go back as far as something like 6 years old, maybe younger. Yeah, really, really young, and being kind of partially petrified and in awe all at the same time. It was amazing. Yeah,
I'm assuming a lot of emotions at that, because it's a gamut of, especially now that you know what it's about. Like there's a lot to process as a 6-year-old. But I love driving through the forest and being like, check out, be on the lookout for that black cat. That's the magical black cat.
Exactly.
That's really fun. I've not heard that as much of bringing it into life. Besides, I was skiing recently and I saw a cat on the mountain. And I'm like, which Jellicle cat's this? Like, is this it's like a Skimbleshanks for the, instead of a train, he's running the ski lifts.
Oh, for sure. I think kind of from that point on, every cat in the world that I ever saw was a comparison to a Skimbleshanks, as you say, or a Tugger, or even a Munkustrap. So it's a curse, but it's
that's the right word for it.
We're completely open to it.
When was the first time you saw it on stage?
First time I saw it on stage, I can't be certain that I don't think I did see it on stage. No, I didn't see it on stage before I kind of watched the show in our run in China. So obviously what they like to do, what the company like to do is give people a show watch, because not only does that allow kind of the covers to have a nice swing at the role that they've worked so hard to kind of learn, but also it certainly gives the entire cast a sense that, this show is truly special. I mean, I think people often talk to me about the difference between being in Cats and watching Cats, and both are incredibly positive experiences. But to have the fortunate position to be in the show and then see it kind of just simply purely as a spectator was incredibly fortunate experience. That was, for sure.
Yeah, it's got to be interesting seeing it the first time on stage as a job, essentially. Like you're watching it from a different perspective of, you're appreciating the beauty of it and the musical theater, but you're also watching because you're going to have to do it here soon. Like you're learning it as well. So I'm assuming it's a slightly different view. So that was in 2024. And you get, I mean, walk me through, because this was not, were you a cover? Were you an injury replacement? Like, when you came in, I think, at least the notes I have are November of 2024 on the China stops that were there. It was still part of the international tour. But what was that, like, what was the introduction in the beginning of that like for you?
Well, yeah, the cast that rehearsed for that China tour were a kind of separate thing. That felt like it was very much labeled as an international tour, but across China. And that cast rehearsed all together. And then even at the end of that tour, I would say about half and half of the cast that were in China to, some of us left and then some of us kind of came back to it. But even when I decided to leave after China, it was a case of, do you know what? I'd like to come back for kind of a month or so in, I don't know, Monaco. And you might think I'm telling you fibs there. But that's kind of, I spoke it into existence, and that's what happened.
Okay, so were you in the original? You weren't in the original group that rehearsed though in China, right? You came.
I was. You
were. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So the notes I have then are a little off, which is okay. So you were in, and you were the Munkustrap that is starting that production, and then you didn't continue, but you wanted to pop back in, so you kind of manifested your way back.
Yeah,
for a couple stops.
Exactly.
Got it. I got it. Okay. So when you landed that audition and you realized you're going to be doing Cats, I mean, what is that like? There's the professional part of this, which is like, this is an incredible opportunity and job, but there's also that like bringing you back to your childhood where it's such a meaningful VHS and moment. Like, is there is it like the dream role and you got it, or is it kind of just more of the like, oh, this is a continuation of theater for you?
It's a great question, actually. I remember when the audition came through, kind of all of those memories, like you say, kind of came flooding back a little bit, because there are so many shows out there now, and you audition brand new stuff you've never heard of, or something that is, one of these incredible kind of long-standing shows like Cats. You kind of forget they exist until they pop into your inbox, unless they really are one of those shows that feels like are constantly on your mind. And although I loved Cats when I was young, it didn't feel like one that I was absolutely desperate to do until kind of the audition came through. And then I thought, oh, this is really interesting. At which point I had an audition with Chrissie, the wonderful Chrissie Cartwright, who I'm sure has been mentioned
a million times.
Name dropped a million times.
A legend.
Show. Yeah, a true legend. And I think instantly in that audition, I knew just the level that she was operating at, in terms of, she would just say a word and it would just instantly kind of spark your imagination. I thought, even as much as doing Cats, it was kind of to work with her and the entire team and to be part of that legacy was superb. I mean, I must admit, I didn't know who I'd be in for, because it was kind of a general call, because I think it would either be Monk or Tugger that I was in for, but I didn't know for sure. I remember bringing one song that was certainly more Monk and the other certainly more Tugger, and I was like, well, let's just see where they put me. And Monk was, from that point on, was always the avenue that they wanted me to go down, and thankfully it all worked out. Yeah. Okay. So walk me through then this rehearsal process. Like, you obviously know a little bit about the show, but how much did you know about Munkustrap? Like, did you know the narration and the siblings and some of the stuff that's like meant to be true, or was a lot of this a learning process with Dane and obviously the amazing group that put together the show? Well, yeah. In answer to your question, Chrissie did the most incredible job of telling this story. I mean, on that first day, we all sat down around Chrissie as if she was Munkustrap telling the story of Cats to all of us. So I feel like she was certainly the blueprint for storytelling when playing the narrator Munkustrap. But no, she was superb. She kind of laid it all out for us, and obviously gave us, all of us, our words and our relationships with each other. But what's kind of so amazing about Cats is that there is this freedom that comes with it. Although the choreography is timeless, and it has been that way, and it's kind of almost identical in that respect to that VHS production that I was talking about earlier on. There is so much freedom, and that's what Chrissie kind of allowed us. And it was something that was incredibly daunting, because it is this responsibility, like you say, yourself and so many other people love this show and have seen the most incredible performers perform this show. So it was an incredible responsibility, but one that I think we all took on with open arms and embraced the challenge. And we absolutely loved that process for sure.
Yeah. Can you share a little bit of like, what was your Munkustrap like backstory that you were told, or kind of like the aha of like, ooh, this is what I'm going to lean into when I go on stage here the first time as this character?
I think I seem to remember Chrissie pulling me aside at the start of rehearsals and kind of saying, I see a Munkustrap in you that is slightly younger, because I am quite young for the usual Munkustrap casting, as or so I'm told. And she kind of set it out as this young lion who is about to inherit the throne, the Jellicle throne, if you will. And then old Deuteronomy is this kind of stoic leader that has ruled for so many years. And that pressure to succeed the throne, and that sense of responsibility that Munkustrap has, is both what makes him interesting and what makes my show interesting every night. You know, thinking about the stakes of that, and the way Chrissie laid that out was so wonderful. And I always remember it, even now, years on, I'm sure.
Yeah, it is like my biggest monk question is like, when are you going to be done with old Deuteronomy doing this? Like, when is it finally going to be your turn? And I kind of like the idea, like, of you saying like, oh, you're auditioning almost. So is every show I mean, obviously doing this 8 times a week, it's a job, but like, is it almost treated like this is my audition to be in charge every single night, and I have to go bring that to the performance every single night?
Well, for sure. I think throughout rehearsals, I was kind of developing this narrative in my head that actually I seem to think that this is old Deuteronomy's final year. And that for me just raises those stakes even more and makes, like I say, the show more exciting for me. So every decision he makes, he feels that scrutiny could be on him, or if he makes the wrong choice, then perhaps old Deuteronomy will say, you know what, maybe you aren't the right person to take on the throne. But yeah, I think that pressure and that sense of, I suppose, like I've said, the responsibility of that. I seem to think that this is old Deuteronomy's final year. Yeah.
Okay. So if that's the case, does he pick himself one year? Like, were you waiting for him to just say, all right, thanks, Chrisabella, I'm going now?
Well, I feel as though I may be jumping the gun a little bit here. I feel as though the perfect Jellicle choice, if you like, is old Deuteronomy.
Okay. Well, so let's come back to that.
Please, let's pin that there.
I want to pin that.
I don't want to,
because I want to go
into quickly. Yeah.
Into the details of that, because I have a lot of follow-up questions with this, because it's something I've explored and I think is not an answer we hear enough, given the way that this story is structured. But it makes a ton of sense that you're telling me this when you're saying that you're treating this as like, this is it. This is his last one. Like, we are finally at this point where you can take over, which I love. I want to hear a little bit about doing the show in China and the audiences there, because I know that you put in, like, it was done in English, but you threw in some moments that had, obviously some stuff that was more for that audience and for that culture in that region. Being that this is your first time doing Cats and doing it in a place where English isn't the primary language, what was that like? Was it a little bit more of a adjustment, or was it just because Cats is so universal and there's such a respect for it in China that it was pretty well embraced and easy?
Do you know what? It was kind of the perfect destination, because you've said about that kind of language barrier. I think I did worry a little bit, given that Munkustrap tells the story.
Yeah.
If people come out of the theatre saying, well, what was the story? I feel a little bit like I haven't done my job quite right. But actually, their response to the show and speaking to them at stage door and things like that, I think that was a testament to just how incredible the physical storytelling of the show is. I think even if you watch the show in complete silence, which you wouldn't want to do because the music is phenomenal, I think you would get a real sense of the story, the relationships between characters, and the way Dane and Chrissie set that up and set the show up is in such a way that I think someone would be able to grasp the story even from, a completely different country with, as you say, that language barrier. Obviously, we did have that moment at the top of Act 2 after Moments of Happiness, where we sang the memory reprise Moonlight section in Mandarin, which always got the most incredibly wholesome response, because they just, I think they felt seen in that moment in such a kind of incredible way, and they'd always respond to that really well. So I'm so glad that we did that. But I think, if anything, it was, like I say, just a incredible testament to the physical storytelling of this production and how they grasped it so brilliantly.
That is, I love hearing you say the idea of watching it with like silent, which is crazy for a musical in a sense, because it's like the music is, such a key part and such of what it's known for. But having seen at least the production in Frankfurt, like there is such this presence. And, I was actually really hoping that when I went to Germany, that it was going to be in German, because I want to see, I've listened to the vinyls of other country, like of other languages. But I wanted to see how much did I, as someone who knows the story and the plot better than most, obviously not the expert by all means, but 250 plus episodes of talking to people about this.
That'll do it. Yeah.
I've picked up a lot about it. And I really was hoping to see like how much did I follow as much. And I think you're totally right, which is you could just mute this. Exactly. And you would get a full story still, just from the way the cats are moving and the dancing, even without the music, and who's interacting with who and how it kind of progresses. And it's like, that's such kind of a fascinating study. Like, I almost want to do it. I almost want to watch this silent one day and just say like, yeah, this, okay, here's what, maybe I noticed other things I wouldn't have noticed before.
Well, it's something certainly I think about, pretty much every night, is that I'm very aware that some people in this audience don't speak English. And because it is so wordy as well, it's not like, even if their understanding of English is pretty good, they're not going to get every single word. Of course, I might be being ignorant here, and they might all speak perfect English, which I'd be incredibly impressed about. But I think, to kind of set that challenge to yourself to say, what is the best way I can tell this story, that even if they don't understand the words, they know exactly, what's going on, and whether my relationship with this cat is particularly negative, or, a little bit more antagonistic, or anything, just anything that I can do to aid that storytelling. And I think I certainly see that on stage with the entire cast on stage with me as well, which obviously pushes me to do the same.
Yeah, it is. I've seen a lot of regional productions in the United States now, and as someone, again, who knows a ton about the show, it's really fun for me to talk to audience members sitting around me, just like, without telling them why I know, because a lot of times I don't say like, yeah, here, come listen to this. Yeah. It's just more like, what can I answer for you? And I kind of struggled until Dane joined me when I was sitting in Germany, because I was by myself.
Wow.
And I was like, everyone around me is speaking in German. And I didn't want to be like, I really like to always jump in and be like, what can I answer about this show for you? And I couldn't do that there. And so I think you're right though, which is like, even if you do have, a full, like, I mean, I speak English. I grew up speaking English. It's the only language I know. And even I walked out of the first time seeing cats being like, what were some of those names? And, like, there's like some, exactly. It is a very, different world. It's poetry. Like, it's poetry saying. So it is, even if you're used to speaking, like, it's not just normal conversation. But you got to do it. And you've done it in more than just, like, obviously there's the tour you did in China, but now you're doing it, you said, in Monaco, and then you're going to a lot of other places where it's a different language in a lot of the countries you go to, every stop you're going to. And I think it's a beauty of Cats is it's a little universal.
Exactly. And I think what Cats does so wonderfully is that it has that incredible rewatchability, because there are so many characters. And I'm sure that as interesting as a more prominent character like Rum Tum Tugger or Munkustrap, you've got a Cassandra that, you know, people might really warm to that cat, or even Carbuckety, or, you know, all of these different characters that, you know, you can relate to in some way or other.
Exactly. How has the differences been in the different countries you've gone to? Like, have you noticed an audience difference in different stops, or has it been, again, I mean, obviously it's very universally loved or hated. I guess there's no middle. But like the people that are coming to you are probably choosing to come to you. But have you noticed a difference in the different locations?
I would say so. Yeah, it's kind of been fascinating in that way. Some audiences are certainly more reserved, and I think just Monaco as an example, I think when we first come out and there is that aggressive kind of intimidating nature to the opening, we're always told kind of engage your eyes, really kind of stare them down. We're not supposed to be scary per se, but we are supposed to be kind of animals marking our territory. And even that, after the opening, do I actually see with my own very eyes a man who's not heard of a Jellicle cat? I think all of the cast are aware that it's strange, but it's this kind of wonderful challenge. And it's also down to the incredible writing of the opening, all of these kind of rhetorical questions that we ask them that, you know, are you ready? You know, are you ready to see something unlike anything else you've seen before? It's kind of not traditional. We come out into the audience, you know, it is incredibly immersive, especially for when the show came out. I think, you know, to have people in lycra cat suits, you know, with cat-like ears and wigs and tails and all of these things coming out into the audience, interacting, asking the audience questions and kind of breaking that fourth wall. I think that is something that shocks some people. And I think in Monaco, perhaps they were a little bit more reserved and kind of like, am I enjoying this, or am I just kind of frightened for my life that these that these people kind of truly believe that they're cats? But I think as the show goes on, you really feel that they are on side and they understand. And although, like you say, it might not be their first language, I think it's this wonderful challenge we have every night of like, just trust us, you know, this show. And that's not so much a testament to us, although the entire cast is superb. I think that just the show is so wonderful in that respect that it challenges the audience then perhaps in ways that perhaps other shows don't.
Yeah, it's a little. I mean, it's got to be both. Like it's a very well crafted show that does that, and then it has to be performed at a way to you have to commit to a level of it too to make me believe that you believe you're a cat.
Exactly.
I've always I'm not sure who actually does this moment, but really early on in the show, you do this person who doesn't know what a Jellicle cat is, like, right? Kind of like, do you you zoom in on a person usually? And I've always thought, I've never been in that area of the front row kind of area where you pick on that person, but I want to be, because I'm like, I'm usually wearing a WTF is a Jellicle cat, or like something Jellicle cat related as a shirt if I'm at the show.
Sure.
Do you pinpoint someone who you think really isn't going to know? Like, is it intentional, or is it just kind of like we go over here and we do it every night?
Well, it is usually a seat. It is a specific seat that our resident chooses, kind of just in terms of all of our eye lines, just because it looks incredibly effective when everyone's looking at the same place, and that kind of laser focus we have. But it is funny. So some nights you have the kind of the most sweet little child sat there, frightened for their life, that this gigantic cat is looking at them saying, "I cannot believe that you do not know what we are," which I have the great fortune to deliver that line. But it is funny, you know, sometimes you do get someone that is a little bit more reserved, or at least is you can kind of see them saying to themselves, what is going on? You know, this or someone that feels a little bit more scared, or children that sometimes scream. But it is something that certainly keeps that moment alive and fresh, and actually seeing that person and connected with them is really exciting.
I'm curious more of the reverse, which is like, I know some people that come fully dressed in cat's costumes to show. Like, Like, what if you end up with that person in the seat? Like, I want to almost handpick somebody for the seat one night for you and being like, this person definitely knows what a Jellicle cat is. Like, they are here for a reason.
Do you know what? I would love that. I would love nothing more than to look out and see a fellow Jellicle cat in the audience.
Have you had any? I mean, I know some people in the US that do it.
Yeah, no, we certainly have. Not in that specific seat, which I am very much looking forward to now, and it's bound to happen in the next venue now that you've said it. But no, there are people in the audience. So at the top of Act 2, as I'm sure you know, we have this kind of playtime section where we kind of walk through the audience and interact with people. And if there's someone dressed like us, you know, we kind of we'll go straight up to them and be friendly with them in that way. That's not, you know, saying that everyone needs to come in full cat, but it is lovely to see, you know, the kind of love for the show and the effort that people go to, and
that's amazing.
The makeup and the wig, incredible.
That's amazing. Yeah, we're gonna take a quick break and then we'll be back for more of The Wrong Cat Died. I want to hear a little bit before we go to some rapid fire and then we go back to this old Deuteronomy question, but I want to hear a little bit about what are some of the funny, memorable moments from the time you've done cats. Like, what are the things you're just never gonna forget, that either things that were errors, mistakes, fun, you know, just the things that are burned into your brain?
Oh gosh, I have to take one from Rehearsal. So working with Chrissie, there's that iconic position that Munkustrap hits after his prowl into the center of the stage for his opening line, "Are you blind when you're born?" And I watched Chrissie Cartwright do it. She kind of demonstrated it for me, you know, and I kind of remember thinking to myself, I will never do it as good as that. That was incredible. It was just like watching a tiger in some long grass ready to pounce on a gazelle. It was unbelievable. I think that was certainly one that sticks out to me. Actually, more recently, in that same moment we were talking about, I said, "What's a Jellicle cat?" And there was a little child that said, "It's a pussycat," which was a great response. I mean, you know, yeah. And not far off. So that was a lovely moment. Any other moments? I think, I remember our opening night in China. So this was the first time that we had kind of everything together. You know, all of the wigs were on, the tails were on, the makeup, everything, full cast. You know, the orchestra was booming across the auditorium. And it was just the start of the iconic theme of the ball in the Copeland section, which is, for people that don't know, is the moment where we all look a little bit like we're pointing to the sky and kind of everything is in unison, which is kind of not something that happens a lot in the show, but when it does happen, it feels incredibly powerful. And I remember kind of that feeling, and I think a lot of people would agree that that was the moment you truly feel you are in Cats.
Yeah.
Because before, you know, you can just be a human in rehearsals with a pair of knee pads on, pretending to be in Cats. But actually that moment when that orchestra kicked in and kind of that electric guitar is ringing in your ears, I mean, that was just incredible. Yeah. Certainly a memorable moment.
Oh, I'm sure. As someone who's not done it, I feel like the moment that would have to hit hardest is finishing the ball. Just like the entire ball is such iconic music, but also, I mean, like as a dancer, it's kind of peak dance. Like it's the extremely difficult, super long, well-known choreography with sections. And like you said, that moment, but there's so many others within the ball. I feel like that has to be the moment where you're like, oh, not only do I get Cats, but I'm also like, I'm in Cats. It's like that is physically has to be one of the most demanding sections of musical theater of anything I've ever seen.
Oh, for sure. And the kind of great privilege that I get every night is that Munkustrap is an overseer. You know, He is the kind of person that is always looking. And I kind of take that job seriously in the context of the show, but also just to look at the people around me doing the most incredible things with their body. It's just mind-blowing. So certainly at the end of the ball, there's always this moment I find and this happens kind of very rarely, if at all, in any other number. The ball finishes, and there's this kind of just dead air before the applause of just, I hope what it is the audience just go, wow. And then they applaud, you know. There is that kind of silence just before the kind of calm before the storm that is kind of absolutely magic in that way.
Completely. You know, I can tell you why. I've thought a lot about this recently, actually. I think part of it is that I know the first time I saw it, I expected that to end Act 1.
Yes.
I didn't expect, like you so many of the things that happen are the more newer shows I've seen end on that type of number.
For sure.
And not adding the little memory and this other thing. Now, from the storytelling perspective, that part is so important.
Absolutely.
But from a like structural musical theater, I'm always kind of like finished being like, that should just curtain go down, and then you get the roar, and then also for you all, you get to like catch your breath, like you get a little bit of a moment there. But it is one of those weird decisions to me that I've actually thought a lot about recently. Of like, I kind of wish that they would do that. Someone would do it, but you'd have to figure out how to retell Grisabella's story in a different way, because that moment is so important to the show from a storytelling perspective.
Oh, absolutely. I think, yeah, I mean, that certainly plays into the beauty of Cats subverting expectation, and going against the expectation of a big button at the end of a number. And you're absolutely right. I actually seem to remember in rehearsals thinking, right, that's the end of Act 1, fantastic. Yeah. And then I said, we've completed Act 1, how amazing. And then Chrissie said, and then we get a final of the act, a final entrance from Grisabella. And at first I thought, wouldn't it be stronger to end with that massive dance number? But actually, I think that is the audience at their most focused, right? They are absolutely glued to the stage at that point and kind of hopefully transfixed as seeing what's just happened on stage and the kind of incredible nature of that choreography. And like you say, all the sections, and then that button happens. And I think you're absolutely right. That silence is, the lights haven't gone down. Okay. And then they kind of watch so intently. And the person that comes out, the cat that comes out, is Grisabella. And then they realize, okay, right, let's take some notice of this, and let's really see this act through to the very end. And I think that's probably why they do that, as well as it being incredibly important to the story, like you've said.
The attention part is fascinating. I hadn't thought about it from that angle, which is like, you're right. That is the most engaged moment you'll have to then put my eyes or my whole thought somewhere else quickly. That's important. I think the other part, though, that confused me the first time I saw it is I knew Memory. I didn't know any other song in the show. I wasn't a Cats person before.
Yeah.
And I remember being like, that was it? Like, isn't there more to this song? And then it wasn't until it comes back in Act 2, and I was like, oh, here's the full song. But I've had people that have left at intermission, the non-Cats people, and they're like, oh yeah, I mean, I heard Memory and I left. I'm like, no, you didn't. You heard Little Memory. And so again, it's a different choice, but the attention part is fascinating because I hadn't thought as much about that, which is, you are right. I am the most engaged in the entire show at that moment.
I think just on the side of Memory as well, it's not even the words of Memory. It's that kind of little arpeggio that it does before, boom, 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 like that kind of moment before, and you literally see people sit up in their seats. It's kind of this incredible thing of like, they know this one, but also, it's something that Lucy May Barker does with such ferocity. Absolutely incredible. Every single night, just really just gives her full self to it, which we're all wowed by, and obviously the audience are.
Yeah, I was grateful to be able to see her performance, and I actually talked to her a little bit before the show too, which was super fun. Okay, let's do some Cats rapid fire because we got to get back to this conversation. So if you could go on one night, perform any cat, male, female, doesn't matter. If you're, vocal range, dance number, who would you want to perform as?
I'd love to have a go at Rum Tum Tugger.
Tugger, the opposite of Munkustrap.
Exactly, I'd like to do the antithesis. Yeah. I would.
Okay, who are your favorite and least favorite cats from a personality standpoint? So I'm asking you, Sam, like who would you enjoy hanging out with, and who would?
Okay, as me. I think I'd love to sit down and have a cup of tea with Skimble. Yep. I think he'd be like, your favorite uncle who would just sit with you and watch a nice cozy Sunday film with. I think that would be. And then my least favorite. Ooh.
Everyone's got that family member that bugs them. Like who's that? Who's that Jellicle family member?
I'm gonna Cassandra's sticking out to me. She just seems a pretty
common answer.
Yeah,
actually.
She seems a mystery to me. Yeah, maybe she's too complex for me, but I'm gonna go with Cassandra.
Okay. Favorite song in the show?
Oh, favorite song in the show. I love Mistopheles. I love that. Yet even the underscore during the solo is just unbelievable. Incredible music. Yeah.
Okay, I always ask one fun one. So I'm asking a Munkustrap question. So imagine Old Deuteronomy leaves and you take over. Who are you grooming as your next, to take over for you eventually, even though you're early on?
I think Victoria.
Victoria, okay.
I think there's a lot of reference to royalty, and there is even references to Victoria's accession, and the days when Victoria reigned. There are a couple of quotes. I think there's this kind of regal quality to Victoria, and the fact that although Old Deuteronomy allows Victoria to go and do the white cat touch, which is obviously the moment where Grisabella is chosen to go to the Heaviside lair, I think there is something incredibly important that Victoria is the cat to do that. So I probably, although she is very young, I think in terms of the age range between Old Deuteronomy and I to Victoria, they're probably about the same.
Yeah. I mean, this is down the road. You got your time.
Exactly.
For a while first. Okay.
Hopefully, I have a long reign.
Yeah. Okay, so my $1 million question, and it sounds like we're going a route here I like, but I have argued I don't think Grisabella should be the right Jellicle choice. So I want to know.
I agree.
Who you, Sam, are voting for and why. And it sounds like you're picking Old Deuteronomy.
Yes, a bit of a spoiler earlier. I am going with Old Deuteronomy. That is my choice.
Give me the rationale. Give me is that Munkustrap kind of like, the reason is because of your time as Munkustrap, or is this something how have you thought through why he should be picked?
I think it is a kind of unique perspective from playing Munkustrap, just because that part of the story kind of has to be so fleshed out in your head in terms of feeling like that the stakes are incredibly high. Like I said before, I think in previous years, Old Deuteronomy doesn't get a song. I think there are, throughout the show, we're told that there are these kind of almost Oscar style, and the next nominee is, and we have a Skimbleshanks one that's a very clear, what about this cat? And we have a Gus one that's a very clear, what about this cat? And then there are interruptions, if you like, which at one of the interruptions is Tugger. He kind of comes out, bursts onto the scene, and then you've got Mungo, Jerry, and Rumpelteazer as well. I think some people see Old Deuteronomy as an interruption. Kind of it cuts through the end of Mungo, Jerry, and Rumpelteazer, and people seem to think, oh, he's arrived and we didn't know it. I think this was very much planned. I think we knew the moment he was going to arrive, and then when they say, I believe it is Old Deuteronomy, the twins, Tantamile and Coricapat, it feels so comfortable that it was almost planned that, we're going to pay homage to our leader in this way. Other than that, I would say that everything points to Old Deuteronomy being kind of going to the Heaviside lair, because I think usually he'd be amongst the tribe from the beginning, but Munkustrap is very much the leader until he arrives. Mm-hmm. You have that Grisabella comes in, and Munkustrap, although perhaps unqualified, steps forward and says, no, you can't come near any of us, and tells her to leave, basically, which would usually be Old Deuteronomy's job. So you have that kind of first quarter of the show almost that is completely without Old Deuteronomy, and I think any other year he would be there from the beginning. So I think it's almost like a test. Okay, let's see how Munkustrap does before I arrive, and then when I arrive, I can take charge for one final time.
Yeah. So I love a lot of this. I think the Oscar part is exactly how I've thought about the show, because I've thought about it as American Idol or X Factor.
Exactly.
It's very similar, which is here's the people auditioning for it, and then here are the little stories and packages and interruptions. I like that you call them interruptions. Here's the other filler to make the hour go through. But the way you just said that, which is that Old Deuteronomy is testing Munkustrap. Does that mean that do you almost feel like you've, not you as a performer, but that because he doesn't pick you or himself and he picks Grisabella, that it's almost that you failed? How does that, how do you mentally go through that if that's the way you're playing that?
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? I very much see it as Old Deuteronomy is laying out a series of lessons for me. So, for instance, Gus is a lesson of kind of don't judge a book by its cover. There's this older cat, but actually he can still sing and dance just like the rest of us and give us this incredible number. And then you've got Gumby Cat, which is this feeling of warmth and being kind to everyone. There's all of these different lessons. And I think that even though Old Deuteronomy hasn't gone to the heavy side layer, I think he steps down from the throne because his final lesson and his final choice and his final lesson to Munkustrap is one of acceptance. So the ultimate kind of lesson to learn is that, to be accepting of everyone. And he kind of says, okay, Grisabella is who I choose, but now it's your turn. Yeah. Now that I've given you all of these lessons, it's your turn. And you're kind of ready with, the guidance I've given you.
Okay, that makes sense. So fast forward a year, you're now in charge. Who's going next year under your reign?
That's a fantastic question. Under my reign, I'm going to send Macavity.
Macavity, okay, why?
Because you have this wonderful redemption arc from Grisabella. She's obviously done something, to the outcast in such a way, because this is a tribe, they are so kind of, inclusive and bring everyone together. And it's a very tribal feeling. She's obviously done something horrendous. I very much see the three brothers of Munkustrap, Tugger, and Macavity very much like Zeus, Poseidon, and Hades.
Mm-hmm.
another kind of little holy trinity there. And I think there is redemption to be had for him in Cats 2, if you like.
Yep. Okay. Cool. Okay. I like it. I think that's sticking with the redemption. I like the idea. I mean, you'd have a whole year to see what happens too.
Exactly.
You'd have to gauge the whole time. But I like the old Deuteronomy pick is, to me, doesn't have enough votes. I mean, it's pretty much a Gus Grisabella race in this. But I've always wondered, at some point he can't be in charge anymore.
Exactly.
He has to be done. And as you hear the story he tells, it's like, and especially as the Munkustrap lens, like there is time to give up, not give up, give over the reins to a new leader. And he grasped for a while. So I feel like he deserves more votes than he's gotten so far.
I completely agree. I certainly see, another kind of family link. I see Grisabella as the mother, Old Deuteronomy as the father, and me as the son. So when he chooses Grisabella, it's kind of this moment of, they've kind of squashed all of their trials and tribulations they've had and whatever she's done to be outcast in this way. And it is a lesson of acceptance, but also forgiveness, I think.
Yeah. I love that. I think it's so fascinating, so interesting depending on the family tree and how you think about it. But any non-Grisabella vote for this podcast is a win for me. So we take it and we run with it. But it's great. Have you ever talked to Lucy and Michael and just be like, you should just switch spots today, just when you go up there?
You just see what happens. Yeah. Let's get Michael in the harness and they can fly away. And then let's have, Michael sing Memory and Lucy sing Addressing of Cats, which would be, I'm sure, an incredible switch up. I'd certainly listen to those renditions for sure.
I would too. So it'd be fun one day to just flip spots right there for them. They're both already up there.
Yeah, exactly. I've always said to Jack, who's Jack Danson, who's the tugger on tour with us right now, that one night we should just switch. It'd be so much fun. He said, "Oh, I'd love to have a go at Monk," and I said, I'd love to have a go at Tugger, and not that we'd ever do it, but it would be so much fun just to switch brothers. It'd be amazing.
Yeah, I do think it's probably a show that, the swings do so many of them that because a lot of the dance is similar, you probably could do it a lot easier than some other shows where it'd be like really hard to do a different character.
Well, it's funny, isn't it? Kind of talking on the swings. I've always said that swings on cats are the most remarkable swings in our industry, because you do absolutely, like you say, have those heavy dance tracks. You know, you're talking kind of virtuoso ballet style tracks. And then you have these vocal tracks that the same people cover. Some of the hardest singing in musical theatre. That they are incredible.
Swings deserve all the praise in the world and all the credit that they should do. I mean, they should be given so much. I've talked to people that have done Bomb Ballerina and Demeter, matinee, evening, flip, and I'm like, I can't fathom that. Like to do the other half of the track you just did, especially in the McCavity song, where you're doing, again, it's similar, but you're doing the other side, or you're doing the other lyrics. Like that has to be, like, mentally my brain can't comprehend doing that.
Yeah.
But it's a skill.
I've thought about, because there's on the VHS, the version of Peaks and the Pollicles they do is very slightly different to ours, in that Munkustrap leads the entire number. But what's so wonderful about our version is that Gus and I do a duet. And I've often thought, if Gus had a slip on the line, would I be able to do the entire number? And the answer right now would probably be no. Yeah. Because it's absolutely that. It feels like you're kind of doing a mirrored version of your show, which is almost harder than doing something that's totally separate from it.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Completely. This has been so fun. I've loved hearing your thoughts on this. And I mean, obviously, as a Munkustrap, I feel like you have a different view on the show too, as well, because you like you said, you're the overseer of so much. So it's fun to hear the different parts of the show you think about, and the family tree and all that stuff. So I really appreciate you coming on. How can people stay in touch with you on social media? And I'll obviously tag the tour, since you're still going on that as well.
Oh, absolutely. On Instagram, I am Sam_Brown_. And yeah, that's how people can kind of stay in touch with me. But other than that, it's been an absolute pleasure talking with you.
Yeah, so fun having you on. So thank you for coming and sharing.
Thank you so much.
Awesome. And thanks everyone else for listening to this episode of The Wrong Cat Died, the podcast breakdown of the catastrophe. To follow along, you can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or NFC Podcasts. Follow us on social media at The Wrong Cat Died, or check our website, thewrongcatdied.com.